get ready for a heartbreak because Manhattan may not be as glamorous as everyone says. Manhattan, an island at the southern tip of the Hudson River, serves as the heart of New York City. Although it isn't the largest or the most densely populated borough, Manhattan is known worldwide as a hub of finance and culture. This island is adorned with iconic skyscrapers like the Empire State Building and One World Observatory at the World Trade Center, offering breathtaking views of New York City from soaring heights. Beyond its skyline, Manhattan is home to some of the world's most famous landmarks, including the Statue of Liberty, Central Park, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's a favorite destination for visitors, boasting top-tier restaurants, world-class Broadway shows, and unparalleled shopping experiences. However, beneath the glittering surface lies a darker side seldom seen by tourists. Manhattan symbolizes the stark contrast between the opulence of Wall Street and the poverty found in areas like East Harlem. This disparity is glaring, with the top 5% of households earning an average of about $825,000 per year, roughly 88 times more than the poorest 20% of households. The situation is exacerbated by a housing crisis and gentrification pushing many residents to the brink as they struggle to afford rent. With skyrocketing housing costs and insufficient subsidies, an increasing number of people find themselves in a state of hidden homelessness. This term describes those who are without permanent housing yet remain largely invisible. A striking example of this hidden homelessness is the phenomenon of mole people, homeless individuals living in underground tunnels such as the Freedom Tunnel. These makeshift dwellings form a stark, unusual, yet poignant part of the city's landscape. Besides that, there is also a story like Armando Esposito, a worker who chose to become homeless despite having a job and being able to pay taxes. He sleeps on the streets to save around $1,425 per month, which he then uses to build property in his hometown in Mexico. This reflects the phenomenon of the working poor, where people work full-time but still cannot afford decent housing. Manhattan, along with the Bronx and Brooklyn, indeed falls within areas with the worst income inequality in the United States. The smallest apartment in New York City, with an area of only about 7.4 square meters, illustrates how severe the housing crisis is in the city, being only equivalent to the size of a parking space. White-collar crime is also rampant in this city, especially in the financial and luxury real estate sectors. One of the most striking examples is the Wall Street fraud scandal involving the world's largest Ponzi scheme by Bernie Madoff. This scheme, which ran for over 20 years, resulted in losses of around $60 billion, causing thousands of investors to lose their money. Although Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison and died there, many other Wall Street leaders escaped prosecution for various frauds related to the sale of bad mortgages that triggered the global financial crisis in 2008. Money laundering, a relatively new type of white-collar crime, has been exploited by criminals to hide profits from illegal activities. Another prominent case is the WorldCom accounting scandal, which led to the downfall of Wall Street and significant losses for investors. Bernard Ebbers, the CEO of WorldCom, was found guilty of fraud and conspiracy, facing up to 85 years in prison. This scandal not only damaged the reputation of Wall Street, but also showed how vulnerable the financial system is to manipulation. Manhattan's glittering facade masks a complex underworld where white-collar crime, money laundering, and exploitation intertwine with the city's renowned fashion and entertainment industries. These shadowy practices don't just impact the island's skyline, they send ripples through the global economy, destabilizing markets, encouraging criminal behavior, and eroding the very foundations of financial institutions worldwide. The fashion industry, long celebrated for its glamour, harbors a darker reality. Young models like Kaya Sokola, who entered the industry at just 14, have shed light on its harsh truths. Sokola found herself thrust into a world of age-inappropriate clothing and constant exposure to financial exploitation and the looming threat of sex trafficking. This is not an isolated incident, but a symptom of systemic issues plaguing the industry. The city's nightlife, too, holds its share of questionable practices. Midtown's Sapphire Club, for instance, has become notorious as a playground for Wall Street executives indulging in wild parties. In one high-profile case, a group of Deutsche Bank employees were fired after expensing over $1,000 for a single night of debauchery at the club. These excesses aren't merely about entertainment. They often involve inappropriate behavior and exploitation. The reach of exploitation in Manhattan's fashion and entertainment world extends far beyond the nightclub scene. Model Carrie Otis's account of sexual harassment by her agent highlights how financial dependence and work visa control can leave young talent vulnerable to abuse. Sarah Ziff, founder of the Model Alliance, paints a stark picture of the industry's living conditions. Models often find themselves crammed into agency-owned apartments, sharing tight spaces with up to 11 others, and feeling pressured to attend dinners with businessmen simply to make ends meet. Manhattan, often seen as the economic powerhouse of the world, also hides a darker side beneath its glittering skyline. The imbalance of economic power and gender inequality frequently fuels violence and exploitation, casting shadows on the city's bright lights. Beyond its cultural and economic might, Manhattan faces significant challenges with its aging infrastructure. A stark reminder of this came in August 2023, when a water main over 120 years old burst in Times Square. This incident highlighted the fragility of the city's essential services, particularly the aging and vulnerable water supply system. The city's subway system, a vital part of Manhattan's identity, often faces its own set of issues. Heavy rains frequently flood subway stations, revealing serious flaws in the stormwater drainage and sanitation systems. Much of Manhattan's metro infrastructure, primarily built before the 1930s, struggles with age and operational problems. Traffic congestion is another severe issue in Manhattan. To combat this, New York City plans to introduce congestion pricing starting in the spring of 2024. This policy will charge passenger vehicles a daily fee ranging from $8 to $21, aiming to reduce traffic and encourage the use of public transportation. The revenue generated from this initiative will be directed towards upgrading the city's aging transportation infrastructure. Manhattan is also plagued by gang violence and drug trafficking. In 2023, a significant breakthrough was made when the FBI and NYPD dismantled a major drug trafficking ring linked to the notorious Trinitarios gang. The operation, which targeted various locations in Washington Heights, including juice bars and barbershops along 174th Street, as well as several apartment buildings in Harlem, resulted in the arrest of 13 suspects. Authorities seized firearms, over $94,000 in cash, and drugs worth thousands of dollars. Gang violence and drug trafficking in Manhattan not only threaten the safety of its residents, but also tarnish the city's reputation as a global financial and cultural hub. These issues are compounded by an escalating urban environmental crisis, exacerbated by Manhattan's geographical vulnerabilities. New York's geography makes it highly susceptible to the impacts of climate change, such as rising sea levels and increased flooding. The city has already experienced severe flooding events, and the threat looms larger with each passing year. Additionally, the urban heat island effect, where dark-colored buildings and sidewalks absorb and retain heat, causes urban temperatures to soar. This phenomenon can make temperatures in the city up to 8.3 degrees Celsius higher than in surrounding suburban areas, posing significant health risks, including respiratory problems, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Waste management is another significant challenge for Manhattan. The accumulation of trash on sidewalks attracts rats and obstructs pedestrian traffic, placing a heavy burden on sanitation workers. In response, the Department of Sanitation plans to move trash into enclosed containers, a strategy adopted by other cities. However, this raises questions about how to allocate Manhattan's limited space effectively. The city's waste management costs are staggering, reaching approximately $400 million per year, with much of the trash being transported out of state for processing. This situation underscores the complexity of Manhattan's environmental challenges. Manhattan also grapples with stark educational disparities, with a significant gap between the quality of public and private schools. Public schools often face funding shortages and inadequate facilities, making it difficult for them to provide a high-quality education. In contrast, private schools benefit from tuition fees and donations, enabling them to offer superior facilities and educational experiences. Public school funding relies heavily on property taxes, creating a funding disparity between affluent and less wealthy areas. This disparity limits access to quality education for low-income families, perpetuating a cycle of inequality. As Manhattan navigates these multifaceted challenges, it becomes clear that comprehensive and innovative solutions are needed to ensure the city remains a vibrant, safe, and equitable place for all its residents.